What's up, Dolphins fans? Welcome to another edition of the Scouting Combine, and we are live here on YouTube. I'm joined by my co-hosts Brandon Liguori and Josh Moser of WSVN, local affiliate of Fox. Brandon, how you doing today?
How's everyone doing, guys? It was a pretty hot day today over at the final training camp for the Miami Dolphins, open to the public. And I know we're going to get into it later on in the show, but Tua Tagovailoa looks really, really good, and I'm excited to see come week one, really under less than a month. I'm excited to see what he does against the New England Patriots.
I know I'm excited too, and we're not going to see Tua play up against the Bengals. Just keep him healthy, keep him safe as well. I think he's already proved what he's done. But Josh, how are you doing today, man? This is your second time being on the Scouting Combine.
Oh man, this is great. Happy to help, and anytime you get to talk sports, it's a great day. So, especially down here in Miami, and it seems like you guys are getting a nice little following. And yeah, this is what it's about, man. Just sharing the love and bringing people in and getting them excited about what we're excited about.
So you've been at training camp a couple times recently. What did you like from the Dolphins, and what do you want the Dolphins to work on a little bit more this season?
Well, you like to see all the receivers on the field. I think that's a big thing that you really like to see. You want to see more work on that offensive line. They've got a really young offensive line, and you want to protect your quarterback. That's priority number one. I think that's why they went out and traded for Little, former second-round pick. Would have loved to see DJ Fluker healthy. Obviously, no longer with the team, said with that injury settlement. But those would be the two that stick out to me. Preseason football is tough. You really don't even get to see that much in practice. They're keeping everything hidden. It's more on just timing, and you really have to put the pads on. In preseason football, the playbooks are dialed down so much. It's going to be a completely different look week one. But it's more building excitement. They're ramping up. But those would be the two big storylines that I really would focus on that I feel like you got out of camp. But we don't know what this offense is going to look like. And we know the defense is going to be strong. Xavier Howard's back, so I think fans should be super pumped on that. And then we get ready to go here against the Patriots in New England. And, I'm curious to see how that one's going to go. That'd be a big win, divisional game on the road, counts as two. And then coming back against a very tough Bills team to open it up at home. So if they can win those two games, start 2-0, that's like starting 4-0. So I'd be very curious to see this top of the season. And there's a lot of excitement right now. And there should be. Forget being on a boat on Sunday or going to Carbone or wherever else you want to go. It's almost Dolphins season.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly have to agree with Josh. Miami's offensive line is very, very young, is very, not really experienced come to the NFL level. And, everyone's really going to say Tua Tagovailoa's play this year is going to depend on Miami's line, right? Because we've seen, you flash back to last Saturday night, that first half, Tua looked kind of like flawless. Passes were clean, passes were, crisp. You saw Jalen Waddle, he was very involved, obviously, before going down with that injury scare for about 5-10 minutes before he wanted to come back, which me personally, I thought he was absolutely crazy because a preseason game, a meaningless game really for him because we know Waddle's going to be out there come week one and moving forward. So for him to want to go back so bad for a meaningless preseason game was, kind of scary there. But good to see him back. And really, I want to also say Devontae Parker, who has been wearing a red non-contact jersey the last 2-3 practices that I've attended. That's just, not really too much to be too concerned about. I know Hussam's latest first article for 5 Reasons Sports was that whether it comes at the trading deadline or before the trading deadline, that he believes that Parker will not be a Dolphin, which that's a very interesting story. But hey, I mean, to go alongside Josh's point, you want to see all the wideouts, healthy. You want to see all. It's a very crowded wideout room, and obviously the Dolphins won't have Will Fuller come week one because he is on that one game suspension. But he'll be back week two, and really opening up the first 2 games of the season pretty much as last year. You opened up week one on the road against the Bill Belichick New England Patriots. Then you come home and you open up your home schedule against the Buffalo Bills. And also remember, a year ago there were no fans at Gillette Stadium. Now there's going to be over 75, 80,000 fans. So it's going to be interesting to also see Tua playing alongside a crowd noise of over 75,000. And remember, Hard Rock Stadium last year was only, I believe, 25% capacity. So he wasn't used to, 65, 70,000 spectators at Hard Rock Stadium. So there's a lot of storylines going into this now 17-game NFL slate.
And, I think that it might be a bit of a challenge for Tua, but I think he'll overcome it. I mean, look what he did at Alabama. Every single game, there were fans packed in the stands at Tuscaloosa and on the road against tough SEC opponents as well. I think he can handle the spotlight as well. But, Josh, we're seeing improvements from Tua Tagovailoa from year 1 to year 2. What do you have to say about his improvement, and what does he need to prove this year?
Well, I mean, from a fan perspective, I think he needs to make the playoffs. From an organizational perspective, I don't think Tua has anything to prove. I think his expectations for himself are higher than what they believe he can do. You're talking about him being a first-year starter. You're talking about him coming off of a major injury. You're talking to him about coming off of a 6-3 season as a starter, going back and forth with Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's hard because of the season Justin Herbert had last year. Just fans, like, hey, they pass on him. They have this guy. You have the only lefty signal caller that's starting in the league. He's different. You have a skill set and now a playbook that is catered to him. You now have an offensive staff that he likes the communication. It's not Shane Gailey, who he had really no relationship, completely different style. So they really believe that Tua is their guy. They've given him the resources. The organization has said, you are the guy. So you don't have anything to prove to us. Just go out and win football games. And in listening to him talk, it's been all about communication and comfortability. He's had a full off season here. And look, there's an extra game this season. Obviously, you're one injury away, but I think this team has to win 10 games. I'm curious to see if 10 games is enough to get into the playoffs. Normally, that's when you start talking about the postseason. But now with that 17 game, does it bump up to 11? Does it bump up to 12? But, realistically, when you look at this division, you want to get 2 wins against the Jets. Can you get 2 wins against the Patriots? And can you split home and home with the Bills? I think if you do that, I think that's a huge success. They really don't go out to the West Coast. There's that one West Coast road trip to Las Vegas, so they're staying pretty close. So, I mean, you're not going to have the same roster throughout the season. We've seen this. So I think it's just, can he control the line of scrimmage? Can he not make mistakes with throwing interceptions? Can we see him throw the ball vertically? And we're going to wait and see. But does he need to be excellent? No, he doesn't need to be Aaron Rodgers this season. He needs to be good enough and showing progression and not making the same mistakes over and over again. Obviously, they let Ryan Fitzpatrick go, so they had enough confidence in him. Jacoby Brissett is a very serviceable backup, and I'm curious to see what Tua can do. His players are talking very highly of him. He talked about all his offseason workouts with staying here. He worked out at Perform, and he shortened up his throwing motion. He's gotten his weight up. He's gotten his mobility back, and I think this is the best that he's been since he got injured at Alabama, where he led the NCAA in accuracy. So that's been one of the knocks. So very curious to see what happens. And again, it's all about that offensive line. And I'm curious to see how this communication works out with 3 people in his ear. But it's going to be a fun experiment to kind of follow. And that's what it's all about. But, excited to see what the evaluation will be. I call it quarters of the season. So after week 4 and when we reach the halfway point. But certainly I think with these first 4 games, you got to look to go at least 2-2, and if you can go 3-1, I think that's a win.
And keep in mind too, the Dolphins, they have 2 primetime games this year. November's game against, I believe, Baltimore at Hard Rock, and then December Monday Night Football against the new Saints, because it's the Saints team that's not going to feature Drew Brees. So not only are South Floridians going to get a chance to watch the Dolphins, but really the whole globally, because I think for a young squad like ours, having 2 primetime games against two great NFL teams that are coached by 2 very, very good head coaches, I'm looking really at those 2 games. And even also don't forget, October 10th, the Dolphins go to Tampa to play the reigning defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers too.
I feel like the Ravens just always beat the Dolphins. Like historically, like It's so bad. It's so lopsided.
It's been bad. It's been bad. It's funny. I was in the press box for that season opening game in 2019. That was Brian Flores' first game as Dolphins head coach, and I believe the final score was, if I'm not mistaken, 59-10, and I want to say it was 42-10 at halftime. So it was more of like a Hussam, and I can kind of relate to this because our high school football team was very, very, very poor. There was many times on Friday nights where our high school team was losing 42-3, 42-10, and not even at the end of the year. So it was bad. It was bad. But I mean, I believe. I mean, 3-4 games against Baltimore. Their last 3-4 games, I want to say they've lost by at least double digits, I believe, in all 3 or all 4 games.
I'm curious to see. I think this Patriots game is really interesting because. Is it going to be Cam Newton? Is it going to be Mac Jones? And the second time that they see them, what's their team going to look like? I think you could see 2 completely different games.
Correct.
So getting this first one out of the way, if they can pull a win there, I think that's going to be really set the tone on the season to be a big win, and which might help them. I mean, realistically, they were 1 game away from the playoffs last year.
Correct.
So, it's going to be a run ride. I'm excited to see what this team can do. Curious to see if they can get better than 10-7. So I think that's the benchmark, and we'll see if that's enough to sneak into the playoffs and maybe surprise people.
So do you see?
Let's go ahead and talk about the defense. Let's go ahead and talk about the defense a little bit, and then I'll get back to you on it, Brandon. But all of us are wondering if Miami can get back to that shutdown defense last season. You get Xavier Howard back. Byron Jones is back as cornerback number 2. You draft Jalen Phillips in the draft. You get Javon Holland, who looks to be a playmaker, who looks to be another interception machine, sort of like Xavier Howard, getting those interceptions at practice and joint practices as well. Could this defense be better than last season?
Go ahead, Brandon. I'll follow you.
I mean, really, you take a look at Miami's defensive line is very, very scary. I mean, even I've attended many train camps, and I'm sure Josh has as well. Zach Sealer, Raekwon Davis, Christian Wilkins, who's flipped between the first team and second team. That doesn't really necessarily mean that Christian Wilkins is not going to be on the field come opening day on the first defensive snap. That just means that there's just so many guys on the defensive line that Miami's just constantly rotating. I mean, really, these big 3 guys that you take a look at, Sealer, Raekwon Davis, and Christian, I mean, this team has the potential, the defense really has the potential to be a top 5, top 3 defense. I mean, it's a very scary defense. And I even watched, today's practice, Jalen Phillips, who's been kind of quiet, preseason like, and I know he was dealing with a injury the first couple weeks throughout practice. He wasn't able to go, but there was 2 plays today that he came off the line with ease. And I mean, obviously, I believe Tua was in for one of them, and then Jacoby Brissett. So both plays that Phillips came off the line, one was on the left side, one was on the right. I mean, he came off the line with ease. I want to say the ball was automatically snapped, and within 3 seconds, Phillips already beat his assignment and was already attacking the quarterback. So this is a very young defense too, just like we were talking about the offensive line. It's a very potential-like defense. So this is, I'm telling you, I mean, names like Zach Sealer, a lot of people may not really know. Raekwon Davis, a lot of people might not really know. Javon Holland, since he's entering his first season as an NFL player. But this is a defense that they could create takeaways, and they can create takeaways in a hurry. I mean, this is a defense that I believe could be very, very scary. Obviously, everyone has to stay healthy because we always say that injuries are likely to happen.
I agree. For me, it starts up front, and you talk to a lot of GMs around the league, and it is so hard to find big guys that can move and that are what they call twitchy, that are 300-plus pounds. And Raekwon Davis, second-round pick. Javon Holland, second-round pick. Christian Wilkins, first-round pick. Igbenogany, if he's healthy, first-round pick. You got Xavier Howard, all-pro. Byron Jones, all-pro. They just paid Baker a ton of money. They have a lot of money spent on that side of the ball. Flores is a defensive coach. We know the style that he likes to play, and it's just creating more turnovers than giveaways. And I think the 2 go hand in hand. I'm curious to see, though, because you got to be able to run the football, and you got to keep offenses off the field. And so far, in my peeking at training camp, their run blocking offensively has been terrible. Pass blocking has been great on offense. So we got to keep that offense on the field, get your defense a little bit of a rest, because if they're forced to be, the dominant side of this football team, which they are, you got to have that balance. But they certainly have the players. They have a lot of young players. And when you talk to a lot of coaches, they talk about the jump from year 2 to year 3. So Raekwon Davis making that jump. Christian Wilkins. Can Jerome Baker take on that leadership role? Because remember, they don't have any of the captains. Kyle Van Noy is gone. Right. Who else did they lose from last year? A couple guys went to the Patriots. You bring in Adam Butler, who comes down. Right. But a lot of their captains on this team are gone. So what does that leadership look like? Yeah.
Patel's gone.
So it's a turn. There's change. But I think this team is ready. And I'm curious to see how this all unfolds. And that's why you play the games.
So, Miami has a roster full of young players. They need somebody to become a leader. Tua obviously has to be that leader on the offense. On the defense, it's looking like it may be Christian Wilkins or Jerome Baker manning the middle. Then you have Xavier Howard, obviously, in the secondary. But you need a leader in the offensive line room as well. And usually that leader is the center. It's looking like Michael Dieter may run away with that job. And Miami brought in Matt Skura to compete. Matt Skura could, obviously, by the beginning of week 1, could be the backup center to Michael Dieter. But there's a battle brewing at the right tackle position between Liam Eichenberg and Jesse Davis. Now, Brandon, I know we saw Liam Eichenberg tweak his leg a little bit. He might play against the Bengals. He might play the entire first half or the entire game. But, Josh, who do you envision as the right tackle? And then I'll go ahead and follow up your point about run blocking as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably Jesse. I think they start. I think they start there. If you listen to the coaches, they're talking about guys playing multiple positions, and they're going to have to be able to kick out and play both sides, or kick out and play tackle. But they've got to find the 5 that work together. I don't care where they are, but they have to get comfortable and fast. That continuity on the offensive line, I think that is one of the biggest challenges that this team will have because they're so young. And I love the center out of Wisconsin. I think he's great. I'm curious to see how this is all going to unfold. And I don't know. That's, to me, is the biggest question mark on this offense, more so than anything else. So,
yeah. I mean, the offensive line, really, I mean, just the first really 2 games that I'm kind of looking for, because New England's not that bad. And, Buffalo's probably going to be favorite to win this division again. So if the Dolphins' offensive line doesn't come to play really the first 2 weeks of the season, this could honestly be a long, long season because, obviously the number one goal is to obviously protect your signal caller. So, as we all 3 have said, it's a very, very young offensive line. And really everyone's going to say that one's looking forward to watching Jalen Waddle. One's looking forward to watching X. One's looking forward to seeing how Miami's running backs do. But really, I'm looking forward to see a stout 5 guys who can maintain consistency on the offensive line, because really the offensive line is in a very important position in the National Football League.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I feel bad for Austin Jackson. He's kind of had a rough go of it here. First-round pick, left tackle, arguably the most important position on the offensive line. I know Tua, obviously left-handed, so you could argue the right tackle would be more important, protecting the blind side. But, yeah, I don't know. I kind of like him moving out of the pocket. I know it's more dangerous, but I like his ability to move just because he's the only lefty starter in the league, and you have to create something in a different look. And I think that's the one advantage they have over everybody else. And obviously they're not going to show anything in the first, preseason games. But then, all right, so now you've got these unscouted looks. You'll figure it out week 2. And then, okay, by week 7, now there's tendencies. Now can you break those tendencies? And hopefully by then you have that continuity in the offensive line and nobody gets their legs taken out and, there's no ACLs to deal with. But, yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed. But I don't know.
Fingers crossed, Josh.
Yeah, Damn, Josh already throwing out.
I've seen it all.
Yeah. Josh.
I've seen it all at this point. So, yeah.
Ryan Tannehill, 2017.
Yeah, man. The difference between Tua and Tannehill was pretty stark, and we saw that when Tannehill played for Miami and when Tua did the first 2 preseason games. I mean, Tannehill, as much as he wanted to, he wasn't as mobile like Tua. His footwork wasn't the best. His pocket present wasn't the best, even with, an offensive line around him that helped him in 2016. But post 2017, 2018, when he had those injuries, he was not that same guy. He looked like a statue in the pocket. When we saw those first preseason games, I mean, pass blocking was semi decent, but Tua was able to make it work, man. I mean, as a Dolphins fan, I have never ever seen a Dolphins quarterback operate the pocket like that. I know, Josh, you've been in Wisconsin. You've seen Aaron Rodgers. You've seen every single thing. You've seen the makings of a great quarterback and what makes a great quarterback. But Tua has all the tools, but it's really going to be up to his offensive line. And, I wrote an article for Dolphins ATP speaking about mutualism, the offensive line and the run game, how they coexist together. But the thing is that Miami's offense, as much as you say it has to be a great, run blocking team, it has to be a great run blocking team, it has to be a great run blocking team to get the running game going. Of course, it has to be because their offense is predicated on RPOs, the run pass option. So you have 5 guys on the line that are good run blockers, like Liam Eichenberg, who I hope starts sooner rather than later. Solomon Kinley, I mean, he's a mauler. Robert Hunt, he's got the makings of a future Pro Bowl guard as well. Austin Jackson, he's super raw. Michael Dieter, center from Wisconsin. You know it. Wisconsin runs the ball. They pound the rock over and over and over again. So they have experience run blocking. But the thing is, Miami's offense is not a run-first team. It's a pass-first team. So they're going to pass the ball to open up the run game, contrary to run the ball in order to open up the pass game. And that's the threat Jalen Waddle gives. That's the threat Will Fuller gives. That's the threat, well, if Jakeem Grant is able to, do well in this offense, that's the threat they give. They give a big vertical threat. And as a result, the defense moves back. They creep back towards the secondary. They creep back away from the line of scrimmage a lot for fear of the big play. So that should theoretically open up holds for Myles Gaskin, Savon Alba, Jared Stokes, whoever else is the running back, Malcolm Brown as well. And we saw it against Atlanta, albeit it was the second team defense on there. You know what this Dolphins offense has to do blocking wise. But if Miami, let's say if Austin Jackson doesn't show an improvement, let's say if Solomon Kinley doesn't show an improvement, could Miami draft more offensive linemen next year and then bring in a couple of other free agents as well this season?
Are we already talking about the 2022 NFL draft before the NFL
We're
season?
We're talking about it soon. We're the scouting combine, for God's sake, Brandon. Come on.
Go ahead, Josh.
You got to play the season first.
I mean,
perfect answer. Perfect answer.
I mean, if you look at the way that they've constructed this roster, they're looking for big athletic people that can move, and then they're going to teach them the technique. And when you get people that can be in that system for multiple years, you're going to see them get better as a group. So I hate to use the cliche term 5-year plan, and really the NFL, it's a 4-year plan because of the rookie contracts. They're going to figure out, I mean, this year they need to take a step. Realistically, next year, they need to be in the playoffs. The year after that, that's pretty much when they're like, hey, we're either an AFC championship team or we're making some serious decisions. And curious to see, how that plays out. Now, this is what we do. We talk about the future. We're already talking about championships, but this is the Dolphins. So
he's keeping us humble here, Brandon. He's keeping us humble here.
I'm giving it hope. But there's a lot of reasons to be excited. And
a lot.
This is the best team that the Dolphins have had in a while. The staff really likes what they have. There's a lot of unknown because of this whole offensive coordinator situation, which I'm curious to see how it plays out. But I love Eric Stootsville. Was an interim coach in Denver when I was there. You have a lot of familiarity. The quarterback's coach has known Tua since high school, so that familiarity is going to breed that comfortability. They have a system that works for them.
Correct.
And I like that they're doing it their way. And if you can get that belief in the locker room, and the one thing we really haven't talked about, which I call the secret sauce, is that continuity in the locker room off the field. Every winning team that I have covered, from the Broncos Super Bowl team to the Packers championship teams to the Brewers constantly in the playoffs with former MVP Christian Yelich, to all of these MVP players and playoff teams, they all get along off the field. And they have that this year in the Dolphins locker room. They hang out together. They spend a lot of time together, and that is crucial. And it's not talked about enough. And the wives like each other, the girlfriends like each other. It's all of these things that, worried about X's and O's. But this is a happy group. Now, obviously, they have winning solves a lot of problems. But this group is spending a lot of time that they didn't have to spend together to be together. And I think that will bode very well as we enter into the season. And as the players like to say, battle through adversity. They feel like this team can do that. And then you get a couple key pieces to step up, like a Preston Williams, if he can add something. If Vince Beagle can come back off of his injury. If you can get that guy that they're not counting on to really be that guy, then this team has that X factor, and it's, gives them a little bit of extra juice, because you know what you're going to get from your top guys. That's why you have scouting reports. That's why you get the combine. So I don't know. It's curious to see how this unfolds. And again, I think they could start 3-1. Curious to see what happens with the Colts here with Carson Wentz and what they're going to bring. But, look, it's a winnable game going to Tampa. And I think it's a winnable game going to the Patriots. I would never pick against a team at home. I think that every game to start is a winnable game. And if they can come out hot out the gates and put those ones away early, especially these divisional games, that's going to be a huge help as you get into December football.
Hey, Brandon, you know what's happening this Saturday? You know what's coming back this Saturday?
Of course I do. Of course.
What is it? Come on, you got to.
I wanted to say, listen. I wanted to say week 1 of the new college football season, but now we're calling it. Now really ESPN calls it, I shall say, week 0, which to me personally, I don't really understand what the hell that means. But yeah, so this upcoming Saturday, the 2021-2022 college football season does return. Obviously, for Miami Hurricanes fans, I don't want to give any predictions out now. Me personally, I think they have absolutely no chance against the Alabama Crimson Tide. But the good news for Miami Hurricanes fans that you have an extra, I believe, 9, 10 days to really enjoy yourselves. Do what you got to do with your family and friends, because listen, come Saturday, September 4th, it's going to be ugly. And that's just a bold prediction that I have to give. I'm sorry.
Josh, you got to give your bold prediction on here too, man. What are you thinking between the Hurricanes and the Crimson Tide in Atlanta?
Well, it's going to be too
Will Manso, I'm sorry if you're listening to this.
And Clay thinks
the
Hurricanes have a chance.
King, Mike Harley, and Bubba Bolden. Those three are very confident.
Yep.
That they believe they have a lot more than people think. I've seen the line from anywhere from 17-point dogs to 19-point dogs.
It's a fat line.
Look, I think this game, I think they hang with them in the first half. I think they end up losing. I think they cover.
Backdoor cover by any chance? A little bit of a surprise for betting terms coming in there.
But I think this game's important twofold. One, recruiting.
Of course.
Yeah, I think it doesn't matter. I mean, if they can hang with them, I think that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Alabama's a factory. We know what it is. We know why kids go there. And there's also a rich history at the U. And SEC is defense. ACC, yeah, you got the Canes up right there. So I think look, it's going to be a measuring stick. So they lose. They get the loss. What's more important to me is that they beat North Carolina. And I think that's the biggest game of the season for them. They need to win the division. And obviously we saw what North Carolina did them last year.
They ran
the Bills
ran the football.
Yeah, so now you've got Manny Diaz switching back to his defensive play calling. I think you've got a couple of guys that have come back to school. They said they wanted to come back. And they have De'Ara King. There's so much belief in De'Ara King. And he says he feels good. He says he's ready to go. curious to see what's going to happen after he takes his first big shot because he will get sacked in this game. But he will, as far as he goes, that's as far as the Canes will go.
Yep.
Just to be honest.
I agree.
It's about his offensive line carrying him, too. Can his offensive line protect him against a fearsome Alabama defense, which every single year they produce top 10 talent?
Yep. And, I mean, the key for me is going to be Will Mallory. And I think he could see double teams. But, look, your tight end is your quarterback safety net. And he was one of the top kids coming out of high school. He was stuck behind Brevin Jordan. I think this is his game, and he knows that this is his season. And so if you're going to double him, you're going to have somebody open on the outside. And Harley's got the speed, 6-year kid. See what they do with him in the slot. But they have a couple matchups that they can exploit. And curious to see how that offensive line will hold up and how mobile D'Eriq King is, because they've closed all the practices of the media. Haven't seen anything. And then defensively, it's just, can you create takeaways? Right. And, they catch Alabama in a couple mistakes. I don't think their quarterback, he's new too. So, seen a little bit of action, but Mac Jones is gone. And we'll see if the Canes can play football and not worry about being against the jerseys that they're facing and being in that stadium. Because that stadium, the lights physically are very, very bright and metaphorically. And if they can just remember that it's just, 100-yard field and just play football, I think they can hang with them and then have a couple things go their way. I think they're right in this game.
Well,
they get blown out by 30.
Let's hope they at least lose by 7 to 10 points.
I say they cover.
7 to 10 points, hopefully. Not too big of a thrashing. It shows that, they'll be able to hang with them. Maybe. But guess what, Josh? Pac-12, ACC, and the Big Ten. They're all one big family soon. How are you feeling about that as a Pac-12 grad?
Look, it's all about money. I'm going to be real with you. It's all about money. It is all about television ratings. And it is all about power. Specifically,
is this the end of college football or what?
No, because it's too big of a business.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that there's strength in numbers here, especially with this NIL stuff. That's really kind of the Wild West right now. We really haven't seen it. We've seen that the Alabama QB reportedly has made over 7 figures in endorsements. I know D'Eriq King's got a lot of cash coming in. And I really hope that we still get to see football. For me, college football, look, a lot of the points are scored off mistakes by the defense. It is what it is. Like there's somebody lines up in the wrong spot, or you just have a guy that's flat out faster than somebody. But it's about that pride and that camaraderie. And you go down to a Bama LSU game or a USC UCLA game or a Florida State game. It's special. And I hope that stays, and I think that will, but the SEC runs everything. And when you look at it from a recruiting perspective, and with the teams going over there with Texas, Oklahoma, there was no other choice. It's an arms race. Like, they didn't have a choice. They have to basically, what is this, like, get it
survive and
themselves?
Adapt. Survive and adapt.
Exactly. It's like you're going to have to create some allies here, because you can't fight solo. You got to bring somebody else on, like Game of Thrones or whatever, reference you want to make, where you're going to have to go grab someone else and say, hey, we need to compete against the big boys. But look, they talked about this 12-team playoffs. We'll see what happens.
I hope they do it. I really do.
And then you talk about too many games for kids, and then you're going to talk about, no one plays in the bowl games anymore anyway.
Even if they were doing like a March Madness style bracket where the one plays the 16, the 2 plays the 15.
It's tough. Football is just tough. And there's so much money involved. It just kind of is what it is. Like, this is the new normal. Like, I have no idea what to expect. I think the recruiting's still going to be regional outside of like the top 100 guys. But it gives you a chance to have more of a national brand, which I think is good for the kids. Now, that can work against you or for you. But you got to remember, these kids are 18 to 21 years old.
Right.
And I know social media is, I'm turning 35, so I didn't have Facebook in high school or Instagram in high school, and but when you start getting these messages, I mean, sure, these kids get it in high school, but I mean, you drop a pass, I've seen it. I mean, you're getting flooded with tens of thousands of messages. That's a lot for an 18-year-old kid, and we don't really talk about that side. But when now you're talking like, hey, you better score a touchdown so that you can feed your family because you need that $2,000 to fly your family from Mississippi to go watch you play a game at, Oregon. I'm curious to see how much that's going to factor in. And I hope these kids get the support and help that they need. And I really hope that they make it about the kids and not about the dollars and not about the TV ratings. And, we get to see college football, and there's still pride in playing, because now, as we've seen with basketball, it's a transfer portal. Yep. Shoot, I'm not getting minutes. Like, I'm gone. I'll go play somewhere else. Great. If not, I'll go to the D League or the G League, or hey, I'll go make $100,000 playing overseas, and I'm just going to do me. And I get it. Like, I get it. But at the end of the day, you got to represent the jersey that you're playing for, and times have changed. And we're entering a whole new world. We're entering a new world from our broadcast perspective. But yeah, it's just going to be weird seeing like Michigan play Oregon State. Like, I don't want to see that.
I mean, it's already weird enough that we're seeing
USC versus Miami. I know you want to see that.
Cool, at least, because like the LA Miami thing. But I mean, like Oklahoma State, like you want to see like the Red River Shootout, Texas, Oklahoma, right. But to go see, I don't know. I mean, but you look at the big programs to see like Clemson play Stanford, or I don't know, like Alabama play Oregon. Like, great, we have cool uniforms and you get to bring in people from different parts of the country. But I feel like you're missing the point. I'd rather see him play LSU or Arkansas. Like, I want that tradition. I'm a traditionalist. I love it. I mean, that's why you go to those schools, for the rivalry, to go beat the crosstown people that said, I didn't get a scholarship from you, so I'm going to your rival and I'm going to beat you. Like, I love that stuff. But now we'll see what happens, but it could be cool.
I think as a fan, I see your perspective, and I mean, you honestly said it really, really well. But for the players and the coaches and the athletics department, it's a whole new world where, they have been in their conference a little bit, and, they can't really compete in the conference they're in. Let's go ahead. Let's branch out. Like,
right.
Northwestern versus Oregon State. That may help Oregon State in its quest for, the Pac-12 playoffs. It may help Northwestern in its Big Ten, or whatever the alliance and the conference alignment will be. It also helps players, go up against different types of schemes, different parts of the country. Go ahead and, learn about, different X's and O's, different schemes, different coaching abilities. And look, these players, if they're able to get new information, they'll learn their craft. They'll learn from the best teams in the country. They'll learn what not to do from the worst teams in the country as well. And I think this opens up recruiting a lot too, where it's not just, oh man, I really want to get into the SEC. I want to go to Alabama. I want to go to LSU. But you could be like, Oregon, yeah, that'll be great. Michigan State, that'll be awesome too.
Yeah, I hope that you're right. But I think it's a lot of it too is like, you remember, like, it's regional. Like, you want your parents at the games. You don't want to go all the way across the country when you're by yourself. And for like a program like Appalachian State that's going to play Miami in the home opener, like, they depend on those games. That funds their entire athletic department for the season to go play a top school. They get so much cash for that to come get beat, basically. And you start eliminating some of those games, those non-conference games. I don't know how some of these small schools are going to be able to do this, especially when you're going to get rid of those non-conference to go play a higher profile game, because that'll get you more, RPI standing or whatever it is. But will that matter if there's a 12-team playoff? I don't know. It's going to be really interesting, but I feel you. But again, like, I still feel like the top kids are going to go to the top programs, because they want the NFL money. And as cool as this NIL stuff is, and you get $500, $1,000 here, the money's in the 7-figure NFL contract. But we're talking about, 350 players, maybe 500 versus the thousands that play Division I football. And I mean, I love the Army Navy game. I want to see that. I don't think it's going away. So I'm curious. And now you're going to fly kids across the country more. Where's COVID going to be? Like, is that smart? I mean, there's just all these factors. But from a national audience perspective, to see these teams play, I think, it'll expose them to different parts of the country. And that's just kind of the new world of social media. I think it's all going to be an experiment. And I'm curious to see what clicks and what works. What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive. And I'm excited for the Dolphins season. I'm excited for college football to come back. And I'm, excited for just everything in general. So, Josh, before we let you go, what are you doing at WSVN? And, what's next? What's coming up on your schedule soon?
Let's see here. Well, we've got this really cool Dolphins feature. I had Raekwon Davis out. We went out to the Seaquarium.
Miami Seaquarium, yep.
We got a pick'em contest all season with Zoe the Dolphin. Zoe named after Alonzo Mourning. So Zoe's going to pick winners for us every week. And then we got something cool coming up Sunday on WSVN, our show Sports Extra. The Canes Barber, awesome dude. Steven Rivera also cuts the Dolphins players' hair. We chatted with De'Ara King, Bubba Bolden, Mike Harley, just talking about the Bama game. So we kind of got like a little barbershop, preview of what it's going to be like going to Atlanta. I'll be in New England for the opener, so I'm excited about that. And then we're a Fox affiliate, so we've got the home opener on our air, so we'll have a pregame show. We'll have Drew Rosenhaus on the sidelines, who's got a lot of Dolphins clients. And I'm just excited for stadiums to be full and for a real fall football season. I mean, this is special. I know it's Miami. I know it's still 80 degrees, but there's just something special about it.
You
when
can't
get to
beat
wake
it.
up on a Saturday. Yeah, and now we've got a lot of women involved, and the sports are growing. And I think anytime we have this competition, it gets people excited about things. And I think from a Miami sports perspective, I was talking to Billy Corbin, and it's just like, the Marlins are in the toilet. So what? But the Canes have we'll see what they can do. The Dolphins have been as good as they have been in recent seasons. The Heat are, realistically in a 4-5 spot where they could make a run. And there's excitement about them. The Panthers are the best team in the city. They have a legitimate chance to make the playoffs and win the division. So you're in a really good spot. And then you're talking about local teams like Heritage, St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yep.
I mean, you've got ballers everywhere.
I'm going to be – and it's funny too because I'm definitely going to be checking out a lot of these, legit high school programs on, on certain Friday nights. So I'm definitely excited.
Yeah, there's a sports culture down here, and I'm excited to be a part of it and tap into it and meet the families because that's what it's all about, man. It's just about community, and there's a lot to be proud of in South Florida. And there's a soccer player here just named to the U.S. men's national team that's from here, so that's pretty cool.
Correct.
Inter Miami's playing better, so
much better, much better.
Get a little better. So there's things to get excited about, and if the Dolphins can make a little bit of a run, I think the city could get really fun towards December, January. And let me tell you, I'm going to be so pumped that it's not going to be -4 degrees like Green Bay. And we're going to be out there, hopefully talking playoffs in a shorts and a T-shirt. Because
let me just ask you a quick question. So let's say, just quickly. So we were talking about the Dolphins possibly starting 2-0, 3-1, or even 4-2. What happens now if they fall 0-2, 0-3? Are you starting to click on the panic button, or because we talked so highly now, but there's going to be some downs, right? So let's say now they drop the week 1, they drop week 2. So are you going to start? Are you pushing that panic button? I mean, because you're honestly probably going to see people. Starting to say fire Brian Flores, like just some, crazy stuff, So let's say that they drop their first 2 games and even drop week 3 against Vegas. What do you see happening there, Josh?
Honestly, I see that as being realistic, to be honest with you. It's not unrealistic. It's possible. I don't think there's any panic. I really think that this is going to have to go, God, I sound like a coach, game by game. Like, I think it depends how those games are played.
Of course.
It's different if they're getting blown out or how close this is. But, I mean, look, any game on the road is really, really tough. And that's a huge advantage to the home team. They're given 3 points right off the bat.
Yeah.
Correct.
The Patriots, we really don't know what they look like because they have so many new players. We don't know if it's going to be Cam. It's probably going to be Cam. over Mac, but you never know with Belichick. There's so many similarities between him and Flores. I think that's a very winnable game. I think the Bills are a tall task. Obviously, they're the runaway favorites in the division. Anytime you go on a West Coast road trip and you go that far, I think it's a 4:05 start. So that's actually better. This is a 1:00 game, so they'll be used to that. So that's a tough game. We'll see what the Raiders look like. The Colts, we don't know what they're going to look like. Who's it going to be?
Because you don't. Yeah, no, it's true. Because you don't really know with the Colts team. You don't know whether it's going to be Wentz, or you don't know whether they're gonna start going down the bottom of the quarterback depth chart. Maybe Jacob Eason or somebody down below.
I'll say this: I hope that the Dolphins are playing relevant football after the bye week. They have a really late bye this year, which I think is a huge disadvantage. You want it sometime in the middle of the season, but they got to play I think it's like 14 games, like straight. And if they don't have anything to play for by the time they hit that bye, that's when bad things happen. I don't think they're going to be at that point because remember, you still have the Jets in the division. I know they have Zach Wilson, but I think this. I think 10-7. I really think 10-7 is where this team is at, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But
let's hope they go 11-6 or 12-5.
12-5, 13-4, 14-3.
Yeah, I mean you've got Houston at home should be a win. You've got a London game against the Jaguars. Who knows what that's going to be? The Titans will be interesting on the road at the end of the year. The Saints on the road at the end of the year is interesting. Falcons at home should be a win here in week 7. It looks like so. I mean, there are winnable games, and then you're hoping that this offensive line gels, and you're hopeful for that. But we'll see. But no, to answer your question in a short, roundabout way, after I took a complete aside, if they start 0-3, no, I am not hitting a panic button.
Okay.
I don't think we should be
because there were years because there. Remember, 2018, Miami starts 3-0, and then everybody starts talking, playoffs, and then. Boom, so you don't really want to jump on you just don't want to get too excited if they start 2-0 because we've seen teams that start 5-0, 6-0 and they don't even end up making the playoffs. So, but I don't want to talk negatively as if Miami's going to start 0-2, 0-3. I'm just saying because anything is possible, right?
Yeah, but look, I mean, I think once we hit week 3. After the Raiders game, I think you're going to start to see what the identity of this team is. I think that's when you can start really saying, like, all right, going into week 4 against the Colts, they should have a pretty good gauge of what they're going to do in that game at home. And then once you're through that first quarter of the season, we'll see where they're at. And then you can start talking expectations and playoffs. But it's a long season. The roster changes. Who knows what's going to happen with COVID? Luckily, most of the guys are vaccinated. So we'll see how this thing goes. And
I believe there was a report put out today by the NFL chief medical doctor that I think roughly 90% of players and staff members have already been fully vaccinated. So
yeah, the stat has to be. I can tell you that Preston Williams is not vaccinated. I know that he is one, but. Curious to see how the rest of it plays out. Obviously their personal choice, do whatever they want to do.
Oh yeah, of course.
And,
I don't think if I'm not. I mean, I don't want to say I 110% sure no, but I believe Adam Shaheen isn't that vaccinated as well.
Yeah. So, but if they do the right thing, everybody's safe. And secretly, am I supposed to say this? Hey, the Bills have a lot of guys that aren't. So, you hope for that week that. They're down. You never know. And you really hope that nobody has to do what Denver did.
I'll tell you what, though. I like Josh's takes, though. I mean, Josh does have some really interesting takes.
There's so many factors to a football game.
No, it is, yeah.
Never seem as relevant, but there really are.
I'll take whatever I can get, right, Josh? I'll take whatever I can get.
Yeah,
whatever
for all the degenerate gamblers watching, if like a player has a breakup, if someone, has a fight with their mom, you'd be surprised how much this influences games.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. We're going to be watching you locally on WSVN, Fox affiliate. Brandon, thanks for being a great co-host. I'm your host, Hussam Patel. You can find us on Twitter right there in our bios. You can find Josh Moser at the Moz Knows on Twitter and Instagram. As always, your 305 and 954 boys signing off. Miami sports is in our
Wow,
blood.
that was the first
Josh,
time,
he's from
Tom.
Wisconsin and Denver.
Yeah.
He's not a Miami boy yet. Not yet.
Hey, we say
Just
3-1-0. We're from Los Angeles. I made the Bubba Bolden move, going from USC to Miami. So we're out here.
Oh, yeah. Well, Josh,
guys.
thank you so much for coming on. PhinManiacs listeners, thank you for listening. Go ahead, like, subscribe. Yeah, check out our podcast as well. Thank you, guys, and fins up, baby.
Fins up.